Hello and welcome to another episode of A Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez. I am your host, Adam, and today, again, thank you for tuning in to another episode, a great episode. We're going to be discussing a topic that is actually very relevant to nowadays, and it's very important, and it is bridging the talent gap. And I have none other than Steve Higginbotham from MW Partners here today joining us on this show. Steve, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Adam. I really appreciate you having me, and I'm very excited about this topic.
Absolutely. And you know what, Steve, just before we came online, we were discussing the challenges that the industry is bringing at this time, because we all know that there's a shortage. We can find talent, we can't find people. And I think that's just across the board. So tell us a little bit, what does MW Partners specialize in? What professional services does MW Partners and yourself, what do you guys provide?
We provide a lot within the technology spectrum. And what I mean by that is anything that touches technology, whether it be your standard IT, help desk, desktop support, but we're really specialized when it becomes data, big analytics. A lot of companies are moving to the cloud or already have moved to the cloud. We talk about disaster recovery, data convergence, and we do a lot of true consulting. So the programming side of it, the UX, UI, front-end designer. So not just the way it looks, but the way it functions. So applications for companies that are both internally, and some of them actually go out to the clients as well.
Well, and I believe there's also a sector of healthcare that you guys provide staffing to as well.
Yeah, so I do specialize in the healthcare. I've been in the staffing industry for a little over 23 years, and I've worked also corporate talent acquisition as well as consulting. And most of what I've done is all in the healthcare arena. So I've done it from engineers as well as doctors. And so you kind of blend that with MW Partners, which is true technology, and then my understanding and knowledge within healthcare. And so you've got that sort of healthcare technology. And that's definitely an area that I focus in within the market segment all across the United States.
Well, that's awesome. You guys are national and you guys cover that specific industry and sector, which is totally different than your retail, your grocery stores, your restaurants, right? Where I work in a manufacturing, as you know, the Cheesecake Factory, and we're facing a challenge, Steve, where we just cannot find the pool of people that we need. There's a shortage. Are you finding the same thing in the type of services that you guys staff for?
So there's two ways to look at it. We are finding the people. There is challenging finding the people for sure. But there's also the challenge now with this whole work from home or fully remote, correct, where you're crisscrossing from East Coast to West Coast and back forth. So there's more opportunities, and more people are now being able to look. If they live in the West Coast, where I do in California, they can look to the East Coast jobs because they can work remote. So there's more of an opportunity for me to leave my company. So you're having a hard time retaining folks. But I think the big thing is having a strategy and a plan that talks about early talent, talks about talent adoption, talks about the engagement process early on. So not just folks that are coming out of college, but you might have a position that's going to be open. Instead of saying, I need someone now, let's plan when we need someone in January, which is only 4 months from now, believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, let's start planning and getting that pipeline full of potential candidates, and even hire early if necessary. Don't wait for when you need them. Hire the right people when you have them. So talent pipelining is a big topic, and it's a critical need.
Yeah, Steve, that's an excellent point. I never even thought about the talent pipeline. And I believe that that's probably a good strategy to have, to be prepared. And you're right. And the other component, Steve, I'm sure you know this, is the retention part. What do you do to make sure the employees stay with you? What do you do for the retention portion of it? And I think turnover is a huge challenge and issue for companies, but not necessarily for you, for the staffing, because it just means more work and more opportunity. But retention and turnover, is it still a predominant challenge and issue, Steve?
It really depends on clients. So you talk about culture, and I think with everything now since COVID, almost now a year and a half in, you have the work from home model. So I think sometimes there's lack of engagement from your hiring manager, your direct manager, and that can be a concern. You can attract the top talent, but can you retain them? Absolutely. So you have to look at and everybody needs something different. Some of them love training, some of them want the title, some of them want the salary, and you really have to know your staff, but you have to be really, I would say, keenly in tune with what your team or department or even one employee would need as far as retention. So for me, and I almost hate to say this, but I will go live and say it, is money's never been my first objective. It's always been, I want to partner with a company that is going to challenge me, that's going to help me grow within my career. And that doesn't mean every 6 months or a year, but that's going to really push me. I work very well in complex situations and I enjoy that. So knowing that, that's what's going to retain me. Someone else might want that next title. They might have been doing this job for 5 years. They're ready for the next opportunity.
Yeah.
So they might come in to get the company's name on their resume per se, but they're looking to go somewhere else. So to me, the biggest thing that I attribute it to, it's really engagement.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there is a lack of engagement. And I think even now it's harder to engage because, you know, people talk about water cooler talk and sometimes there's gossip, but I've had some great conversations passing by a vice president or someone that could influence my career, just grabbing a cup of coffee at the work site. Well, that doesn't happen nowadays. So how do you do that? I have to get on someone's calendar. So the employee has to really be keenly involved to what do they want for their retention, but the manager has to be tied into how can I help them? I'm not there physically every day, shaking their hand, making sure their emotional side of it is, you know, is that scratch, you know? And I think you really just have to look at the engagement piece.
Wow, that you just said a lot of information there that I think everybody who's going to listen to this and watch this is going to be able to connect. I think the retention part, and you said many different things that we can go on, but you said something in the beginning where, like, you know, hey, money's not my driving force. And I can see, Steve, that you're passionate about this, and it's passion. It's genuinely caring, you know, about what we do, you know, so that's what keeps us, you know, doing the line of work that we do, which is awesome. But from the employer side, how are we going to make this attractive? How are we going to entice the employee to say, hey, this is a great company. These are great benefits. I want to value. I take care of you. I really value what you bring to the table. But when an employer doesn't take that approach and it's just work, and no appreciation, you're going to lose people because somebody else is going to come and take them off your plate and be like, hey, in this company, we provide a lot of, you know, benefits and bonus and referral bonuses, and we just take care of you. We value you. So the retention part, I think it's huge. So we're speaking to Steve Higginbotham. He's out of Huntington Beach, California. He works for MW Partners, professional resources in many different digital technology, healthcare, many different sectors. And my next question to you, Steve, is this. Have you seen a decline, or has your actually business, has it boomed during this entire pandemic, since we all really thought that it was going to be over by now, right? But it has not been over. And there's more people working from home, like you said, people working from home remotely, you know, 2/3 in the office, at home. It's all over the place. But have you guys seen an increase in business and opportunity, or has there been a decline? Have you lost clients? Has there been increasing clients? What's your take on that, Steve?
So I'll answer that in a quick two-part. So about a year ago, I was with another staffing firm, and it was focused on manufacturing. It was focused a lot on the aerospace industry. That took a big dip. So we did lose some clients. They lost some full-time headcount, some temporary headcount, and which was one reason which made me shift into the technology. What I enjoy about MW Partners and technology is we are growing. We are, I wouldn't say booming. It's nothing to write home about, Mom.
Yeah.
But in a sense, we're very proud of our successes and our growth and what we've had. And so technology is definitely one of the forefronts. If you look at staffing industry analysts and you look at kind of where the market is going to grow from just a complete consulting perspective or a staffing perspective, healthcare and IT is always one of the top 2 or 3 that's going to be on that, and has been for the last 5 to 10 years. So we're in a good market. Healthcare, unfortunately with COVID, there's more elements. There's more people that are going to see the doctor. There's more charts that are being reviewed. There's more charts that are being data inputted. There's more electronic data that we didn't have 10 years ago. And when you think of ICD-9 coding, now it's ICD-10 coding. So the market has shifted from a technology. But what I love the most about it, and where I focus a lot on healthcare, is not only the data goes into the system, a patient comes in, sees a doctor, and hopefully there's success, and they can sustain life, or they can get better, whether it's the common cold, but it's what those doctors are now doing with the data. That's really where the importance is. How are they analyzing it, and how are they utilizing it to make better informed decisions? So to answer your question, our market is growing. Wow. It's not booming, but it's consistent because there's more data input and there's more data being analyzed, and it's utilized for better. You can also talk about the pharmaceutical side of it. You always have adverse events, but how do you utilize that data? Well, now we're doing it to hopefully have preventative care, not sustainable care.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of topics when you talk about technology and healthcare.
Yeah.
It blends very well.
No, absolutely. And the reason why I asked that question, Steve, because I'm sure yourself, mom and pop shops lost business, local recruiting companies lost business. A lot of people had to go out of business because of the circumstances. And it's very fortunate for MW Partners to have continued to grow, sustain that, and slowly, it didn't boom, but you're seeing slow growth, which is something really good. Now, I love the caption. I love the very first sentence on your LinkedIn profile. It says bridging the talent gap. Now, Steve, I'm sure there's a lot of recruiting companies, small, big, large, national, worldwide. Would you say that you're just your average, typical, we want to place people recruiting, or are you guys more on the high next level, really good trade and skills and executives and really good backgrounds? Where do you fall along the quality of the placements that you guys help the companies with?
Yeah, no, great question. That's a tricky one. And I love to answer it because this is what I'm passionate about. We're not your average staffing company, but
Yeah.
we do have a consulting wing too. We have over 175, consultants that work United States that are our employees. They're W-2 employees, and they're not someone that's leased for hire, but we do a lot of technology projects. And there's automation, there's data. We do a lot of Epic integration, depending on what the clients need. So we're definitely on the cutting edge when it comes to that. We're not the big four out there doing technology like the big four, KPMG, Accenture, E and Y, but we're next level underneath that, really providing great support. The one thing that makes us unique, and I would say is definitely a key differentiator for us, is really our partnerships with our specific clients.
Got it.
And I won't go out and name them or any of that.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is we have a really strong collaboration with them. We have some very, very large, we have a couple Fortune 100 companies. We have a lot of mid-market, and we have some smaller companies. I'm working with one company that does blockchain technology that has less than 20 employees. So we do make some key hires. I would say we're mid-market to top tier hires. We try not to focus on the entry-level positions because a lot of those folks can be found from the job boards or through a talent acquisition process or what have you. But we come in when there's a critical need, whether it's a project that is opening and they need a specific skill, or they're growing a team in a department. I would say we also gain some business because now people are working from home. So those that work on the East Coast now have opportunities on the West Coast. So there's a little bit of flip-flopping that's going on. So it's created an open market.
Yeah.
I would say the challenge we have, getting one of your earlier questions, was, the talent gap, right? Candidates are having 1, 2, and 3 offers now, where a year ago they were lucky to have a job. So that market has shifted to the candidate's perspective. And it's still tough to find them, but our differentiator is really finding those niche types of folks, whether it be on a project or whether it be full-time with the client. But it's our collaboration. It's the way in which we partner with our companies. We're not seen as just a staffing company where here's a job board or go fill it.
Right. Yeah.
It's, we really want that true partnership.
You said, and I'm going back to that word, you said, relationships and partnerships. And I think I'm a huge advocate for relationships and partnerships. And I always say this everywhere I give, presentations, or I speak, or even at work, even at church or with friends and family. This is what I say. You have to work on your relationships first. You have to work on relationships because by default, the trust will create itself. Right. And then by then you're going to have a really, really good relationship and partnership going forward. So my question to you, Steve, is this. I can see that you're very passionate about the work that you do, and I'm sure MW Partners stands behind this. I'm sure your strategy is, you have to build, that trust factor first, with potential clients, and even with the clients you have now, to retain that relationship, right? So is that your approach, where you have to make sure the client or the potential client knows that you genuinely want to help them, you genuinely care to help them, achieve the status of the talent that they need, right? It's not just another sale, it's not just another number, it's not just another staffing employee or temp employee. So tell me a little bit about your strategy. What's your take on establishing relationships and trust?
No, that's a great question. That's probably one of my favorite questions. So I will put a plug in for another staffing company. I started off in the industry 23 years ago with Aerotech. And one of the first things I learned from them was it's relationships first. So I was very fortunate because I was sort of brought up through the staffing ranks appropriately, I believe. And I've always kind of take that is you always treat your customers fairly. they're not always going to get what they want. You're not always going to get what you want. But if you collaborate and you have honest conversations and you have that relationship, trust is going to be built. So you are absolutely right about trust. One thing that we do, and this is sort of non-negotiable, that we don't work with clients unless we have that sort of partnership. And right now it's a little bit harder because I can't just get in my car and drive down the street and go shake someone's hands because everybody's looking at the CDC guidelines and being safe and social distancing. And the reality of it is the sales process and the way in which you create new clients, business development is different. So it's shifted. And I think it's a little bit harder on Zoom, but I don't ever engage with a client unless we've had that one-on-one conversation over the phone where it's in depth and we are able to ask whatever questions we need to make sure that they're the right partner for us. But at the same turn, they can ask whatever questions they want if we're the right partner for them. I will tell you this, one thing I don't do is we had a client in Texas the other day, and it has nothing against the community out there. They just threw us over a job description and said, hey, can you find us someone? And they had like 3 or 4 bullet points. I won't touch that. So we've asked 3 different times, 3 different weeks, back to back, can we get on a call to talk to you? We have a couple of questions. We want to learn about your culture. We want to learn about your department, because the job description, we can find that person.
Absolutely.
We want to know what's the right cultural fit in there. You know, is it put your head down and just do the work, or do you want someone a little bit more strategic? So there's the questions that you call, whether it's an intake call or a discovery call, you know, the terminology can be a little different, but we always have that upfront. Here's our discovery call. Here's who MW Partners is. Here's who's Steve. Here's what you're going to get. Let's level set the right job, the level, the pay, and then ask us any question. And so for me, it's walking through the process. I don't force things. I'm not a transactional type of operations person. I want to build that relationship. And sometimes it comes over time. But if I don't have that initial meeting, I don't touch that job. Even if it's a great job, even if it's paying great money, again, money's not my first motivator. Probably shouldn't say that, but I'm going to say it because that's the truth. The reality of it, it is the collaboration, it is the relationship. And I can look over the span of my years. I've had 3 or 4 really great companies that I don't do business with today that we've had just great partnerships. And sometimes those partnerships change when a hiring manager leaves. You know, you kind of lose that. So that's the engagement piece. You know, how engaged are they with us? Do they just want to see resumes, or do they really want to find someone? Because if we find someone the right way up front and we do our homework, they're probably going to be retained because they're giving us everything we need to help sell their company to this employer. And again, we're not trying to oversell it. We don't want to overpromise. The fact is, there are some companies that are maybe startups, and you might wear 3 or 4 different hats. You might be a little underpaid. You might be a little overworked. You might not get all the tools you want. But some people want to work in that environment. Other folks want to work for Fortune 100 companies that are very structured, well-oiled machines, and they have 10 different departments they can rely on. So you've got to find the person where they fit into that culture.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. Words of wisdom on partnerships, relationships, and engagement. So important. We've been speaking with Steve Higginbotham, MW Partners out of Huntington Beach, California. Steve works with business development, operations. He does a lot of everything for the company. He's passionate. And you know what? For any recruiting needs, if anybody wants to establish a relationship with Steve, speak to him, pick his brain on this industry, the sector of technology, digital, healthcare, and what MW Partners can do for you and your business. He can be reached at directly, area code 714-600-9577, and also have it on the screen for everybody who's watching and listening to write it down, 714-600-9577, or directly to his email at shigginbotham, that's SHIGGINBOTHAM at mwpartners.net. Or also visit the website, www.mwpartners.net, or call directly to the office, area code 949-705-0690. Again, all the information is going to be down on your screen, so whoever's watching or listening as well can mark that down. Give Steve a call. Steve, it's been a pleasure having you on the program. The last part of this interview, I want to ask you about something that just really caught my attention when I saw your email signature. And it says, and because I'm a coffee drinker, right? And it says, the coffee coach. What is that all about? Yeah. Tell us about that.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I'm pleasure to be on this podcast. It's been phenomenal. And I've enjoyed getting to know you and work with you. The coffee coach, actually, I'm going to give credit to my daughter. She's the one that named that. So early on in my career, I was a recruiter. I've always kind of looked at myself as not just an executive recruiter, but I can find the unicorns. I really thrive in finding folks that are a little bit more challenging or have unique skill sets. And I still thrive on that today. And in doing so, I progressed into a sales type of position, or account management as a term in staffing is. And I used to mentor a lot of junior sales reps, people that were coming up from recruiting that wanted to get into sales and kind of get on the road. And I used to go to Starbucks. I'm going to give them a little bit of a plug. One of my favorite coffee, you can find them anywhere, almost every mile on a corner. All you have to look for is a green awning, and you can get a cup of coffee. So it was the easiest place. And so I started coaching folks. And then it turned into started mentoring folks. And then my daughter's like, well, why don't you just call yourself the coffee coach? And I said, okay. And it stuck. So I have my own little logo. So it's kind of my alter ego in a sense that I do drink coffee throughout the day. I'm very passionate about the flavor of it. I don't drink a lot of it. I drink it strong. But when I'm talking and working with folks, whether it's helping them with their resume, helping them interview, or helping them progress in their career, and even working with hiring managers, you can almost find me with a cup of coffee in my hand.
Well, everybody, we've been talking and speaking with the coffee coach, Steve Higginbotham. He's out of Huntington Beach, California. He does the business development. He does operations, recruiting, high level for MW Partners. Their corporate offices there in Irvine, California. And you know what? Again, all the information to contact Steve, his personal direct phone number is area code 714-600-9577. And it'll be on your screen. The email will be there as well. The website to visit MW Partners is www.mwpartners.net. And Steve, you know what? I just got an idea. Maybe we can create a network and call it the Coffee Coaches, right? There's a lot of us that can get together and do some really good stuff to take, the younger generation under our wing to whatever industry or professional area they want to aspire to, and just coach them. I really love that. Honestly, the Coffee Coaches, I just saw them like, what in the world is that? That's amazing. So anyhow, Steve, thank you so much for being on this program. I just can't thank you enough for all your wisdom and knowledge you shared today, because trust me, during this time, we all need to hear about the challenges, the issues, the successes, the stories, the failures, engagement, partnership, trust, building trust. All that is great, Steve. And I want to thank you again for being on the program. Any last words for our listeners and whoever's going to be viewing this?
No, thank you very much, Adam. I really appreciate having me on here. Thanks for the plug. And it's been an enjoyable ride. I mean, for me, I'll make a quick story. I mean, I came out of the Navy really not having a vision. I just knew I wanted to work around corporate America. And I've been very fortunate to work in staffing and consulting for the last 23 years. And through that journey, there's been a lot of trials, tribulations, ups, downs. But the biggest thing for me is I have kind of a phrase, you can follow your dreams, but let your heart lead the way. And so for me, it's kind of when I coach, there's so many different hats, right? You can recruit, you can work in staffing, consulting, you can be a leader, you can be a manager, you can be, an individual contributor. But at the end of the day, you mentioned the word passion several times, right? I do have a lot of passion, but I always lead with my heart. That's why money's not my first objective. It's leading with the heart. It's doing meaningful work and purposeful work. And I think if you find a career doing that, the money will follow, or at least be, sustainable enough for you to have a family and an income and things. But I've always led with my heart. Sometimes I wear it on my sleeve. Sometimes it's too much, sometimes it's not enough. So there's that balancing, right? But that's my biggest thing is, do all things with passion, do all things with your heart, but be engaged. And it's harder. So that's my last words is really for anybody out there, whether you're an employee or a hiring manager, it's just be engaged with your team, care about them, put the empathy in there. You can talk about, emotional intelligence, but if you lead with your heart, you're going to care and you're going to be engaged. And that's the recipe for success. And that's what's going to help people be retained.
That is amazing. Thank you so much. And you've been watching another episode of A Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez. I'm your host, Adam. Thank you, Steve Higginbotham, for being here today. And thank you very much for your continued support. Everybody who watches, who listens, who follows me. And remember this, follow your dreams, but let your heart lead the way. Until next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Hello, friends. This is Adam Lopez from A Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez. I want to thank you so much for watching my videos and watching every episode, every segment. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Continue sharing the content. You know what? We have many great interviews coming up, a lot of valuable content, a lot of valuable information, educational as well. So I want to thank you so much for your support and continue watching my videos.